So what is the purpose of a soffit and where is it? So if your roof is coming down like this and you have a gutter at the end, which this is called your eave down here at the bottom of your roof slope. At the bottom is called an eave. At your eave, you'll have a gutter that's attached to what's called a fascia. Behind your fascia and that gap between where your roof overhangs the outside wall of your house, that space between your gutter and your house wall, that's called a soffit. So the soffit is designed for a couple of reasons. One is to give you an overhang so that when water drips off of there, if you didn't have a gutter, it would drip away from the wall, the foundation. But once science discovered that gutters are good, then people started putting what's called eave troughs or gutters on their house to get the water away. Well, soffits once they started using soffits in building science, they said, hey, here's an opportunity for us to install intake ventilation into your attic space to allow your roof to breathe properly. And so that space that's parallel to the ground, and if you're looking at your house, you can look up and see the bottom of the soffit, typically is going to have vents cut into it. They look kind of like a register a lot of times, and they'll have a vent that's installed or cut in, and that vent will allow cool air to suck up in as heat rises and escapes out at the ridge or somewhere else on the roof system, depending on when and how when your roof is built or house was built and when your roof was last replaced, depending on what they put. So soffits are one of the key components to ventilation and the functionality of your home. Soffits allow, like I said, intake cooler air to suck up into your attic space. As heat ends up in your attic, it sucks cooler air in and pushes it out at the highest point, hopefully. In that heat is all the water vapor that your home produces on a daily basis. If you want to know more about that, check out one of our last videos on ventilation. We do talk about soffits there as well. And then, and also the exhale ventilation. Accompanied with the soffits should be baffles. They're insulation baffles that are installed in between each of your trusses or your rafters to allow that air gap, that continuous air gap from the soffit up into the attic space. So baffles are really important to allow that air to continue to flow. Without that, soffits are useless. So having those baffles installed and proper ventilation cut into your soffits work hand in hand. That allows for intake ventilation. So it allows you to breathe. It allows not you to breathe, well, it'll allow you to breathe, but it'll allow your home to breathe, which your home needs to breathe. Otherwise, moisture becomes a problem, and you will end up with what's called sick home syndrome. So there's a couple of different ways to finish a soffit. You can paint your soffit, which I go to homes all the time that they've had their soffits painted, and they'll have vents in those soffits that the painter paints over, which then blocks the air transfer for that soffit, which defeats the purpose of that vent. If you are a painter and you paint soffits, please stop painting over those vents. Take the time to tape them off, or go back after the fact and cut out with a razor blade every single little groove so that that home is properly ventilated, you are doing a disservice to your customers by painting over those. So you can have a plywood soffit that has vents cut into them, either big square one or rectangle ones. I've also seen the continuous strip ones. Those are what they use typically now on new construction. They'll do a continuous vent, and then there's a little screen that's put on those, and that's one way to finish your soffit. Another way to finish your soffit is to put a soffit covering over it. There's a couple different styles. You can use vinyl soffit, you can use aluminum soffit, and you can use a composite soffit. It's all in how much money you want to spend and the look that you're trying to achieve. What we like to install and what we install mostly is it's called 333. So it's 3-inch profile. It looks like these little cedar pieces of wood, just little wood pieces that go across. It looks super clean, super nice. And in between each one of those 3-inch profiles are a hidden vent. So there's a vent up inside of it, and you look at it from the ground, it looks like this beautiful cedar plank installation, but in between each one of those is a vent. And what we will typically do is cut in 1-inch incision in the soffit, the entire length of your soffit, and then put a screen over it so that critters and bugs can't get in there. And then we'll install that hidden vent soffit right over it. You won't see that incision, but your full soffit, your soffit will be now considered fully ventilated, which is typically what you want. You want your soffit to be fully ventilated and your ridge to be fully ventilated. And those two things work hand in hand and allow for cool air to suck up in as hot air escapes at the top. So if you want to increase your curb appeal, replace your soffits. Replace the soffit covering that's on there. It's clean, it looks good, and it'll last a really, really long time. And you will get comments from people that come over and will see it and say, wow, what'd you do? It looks great, it looks fantastic. So new gutters, new fascia wrap with new soffits, great investment on your home. One way to improve the value and curb appeal of your home is by doing those 3 things. Check out one of our last videos that we did on attic insulation.